It's, really makes you think about how greed has been this continual thread throughout the story of finance. The difference between the extremes of wealth and the extremes of hardship that people have suffered. The exhibition is showing how finance has been imagined and represented by art and other forms of visual culture over the last 3 centuries, from basically the South Sea bubble in 1720 through to the present day with the crash in 2008.
The exhibition begins with the financial revolution in the early 1800s, and a really important figure for us there is William Hogarth for narrating and chronicling the effects of one of the first financial crises to hit Britain, which is the South Sea Bubble scheme in 1720. And here we see his emblematic print on the South Sea Bubble, and lots of the kind of icons and images that we see recurring in the next 2 centuries around finance we can find in this image. So the image of gambling, speculation, the image of playing, the image of chance. And we can also see the ways in which financial speculation has been associated with social disruption, the sense of the mania, the panics of the crowds. So we see the image of social change happening through the Hogarth.
In this room we have a number of historical objects from the Barclays Archives collection. This is a clerk's desk from the 19th century. We have a coin weighing scale, a coin shovel and some home safes. And we also have a ledger from the 18th century that includes Daniel Defoe's own personal account. This is a cartoon from Puck magazine from 1913, and it is one of a number of satirical cartoons we have. This shows J.P. Morgan, the banker and financier, as a spider at the centre of a web. But in this case, it says the public have got wise to his tricks.
We have 2 works here in the show at the Northern Gallery for Contemporary Art. The first one dates back over 10 years. It's called The Lost Horizon, and that is a fantasy mountain landscape generated from financial data. This came out of a commission at the London School of Economics, and we built the landscape using gaming software on the one hand and up-to-date financial information provided by American Express. This piece was commissioned for this exhibition. It's a development of the earlier work, and it reflects and looks back on the historical events which have taken place since our residency at the LSE. So what we've done is take a decade's worth of information and transform it, this time through the more advanced computer-generated imaging software, into a panorama which scrolls past the viewer in a way from a fixed position, somehow conflating the idea of economic history with natural history, and the idea of conflating human actions through social and economic institutions with the natural landscape is something which for me is a kind of paradox that fascinates me.
The James O Jenkins piece is a great piece because it takes place in this tradition of art that we've seen since the crash of capturing the kind of iconography of bankers. So there's a series of images throughout the exhibition of the way in which we imagine bankers in the city. We imagine the ways in which the strains, the stresses, the excitement are played out on their bodies. But the James O Jenkins does something different with that image of the banker, and it shows them on a ledge. And it's only when you delve into that picture and you read about that picture that you realise that what they're doing is they're craning to see Margaret Thatcher's funeral cortege passing by. So it gives that image of precariousness a very witty political meaning, I think.
What you see here is a copy of an ATM, a cash machine. The work is called Cash Point, and as you can see, it doesn't have a monitor, it doesn't have any keypads on it, because you cannot get money out of it, although it dispenses a £5 note randomly every 24 hours. So you cannot control it. The machine is basically choosing when to give you some money. The original concept or proposal for the artwork came about through a public art competition. I'm happy that it's here, but the original idea is that it's shown in a public place, which is slightly off the main route. So it can, in a way, act as a catalyst for restructuring the public flow, for redefining the public space, just by the story that this machine dispenses £5 every day.
One of the things that we're doing with the question of credit is looking at the development of private credit, the ways in which store cards and credit cards have been gendered in the second half of the 20th century in particular. So what we see in this image here, which is an early image from Barclaycard, is the idea that the woman spends the money and the man earns the money. So it's an advert that's aimed at men, but is about women's spending. And that often women's spending has been seen as both a pleasure and a source of the economy and also a threat to men. And I think that's what we see here, is women deserving some credit but also need to be controlled through their credit cards.
We're learning several things from this exhibition, that finance has tended to be invisible, intangible, and so one of the things we want to do is to think about how artists have tried to help people understand what it means for some of these financial instruments to fly around the world. The other thing that we've tried to do is think about the way there is a longer history to finance. So if we're stuck in the middle of a financial crisis at the moment, we want to suggest that crisis has happened again and again, and some of the ways people have thought about finance need to have a longer historical understanding.
This is a key piece for the exhibition. This is the UK premiere of Molly Crabapple's work Debt and Her Debtors. And Crabapple emerged as one of the most influential artists of the Occupy in 2011. And why we like this piece is because it returns us to the allegorical mode of Hogarth, where the exhibition begins. So what we see in this image are the fat cats popping the balloons, bringing the bubble down to earth, and we see us, the mice, desperately clambering on the back of debt and being ground down like mince into gold coins at the bottom of the picture.
The AHRC funding has enabled us to put on not just one exhibition, but a touring exhibition to 4 locations, and also an app for children that's going to be used in schools' education programs, and to produce a website that has a competition, once again, to get the public involved in the research project.
The exhibition as a whole tells us that crisis is actually a condition of finance, that it's a recurring narrative that we tell of booms and busts, and that instead of seeing crisis as the thing that disrupts finance, actually crisis is a condition of finance. And the images that we have to display that crisis are ways of containing it, of controlling it, and of making it manageable. And I think we wanted to both tell that story and also unsettle that story, allow people to challenge whether really this is something that we can live with forever.